And I think that's the thing that's upsetting everyone. And what the women are trying to do is essentially, it's a non-violent, it's actually a very beautiful revolution. It's non-violent, although I think what they'll do with the mullahs, they talk about tearing them to pieces, but that's by the by. But it is a spiritual revolution in the sense that all of us, even myself as a Baha'i, we believe that actually the only way you can affect real change is if you actually talk about the things that matter, which is why are we here? Is there a God? What's the purpose of life? Why am I here? Is religion one? Is God one? Are people intrinsically one? And if you teach people this at a young age, then you'll realize the last thing you want to do is hurt someone. So the fact that these people are using religion to execute people for protesting, to shoot people in the eyes, to maim, to kill, to put people in solitary confinement for about 10 years. It's so inhumane, but it means they haven't had the spiritual education. I think that really is what the women are saying in Iran, that we need to totally realign and reconfigure our relationships between like the individual, the community and institutions. Because at the moment, institutions just do everything to stay in power and they do it at the expense of normal people. And they should be serving the people, but they don't. They just use the people, abuse people and kill them and execute them. So that's the thing. That's the kind of cycle they're trying to break.
Rainn Wilson, who's been on our show, is, when I reflect on it, inexplicably Baha'i. And just before you joined us, I was talking about Gandhi and the impact of Gandhi on activism and the efficacy of non-violent protest, and how any movement has to be underwritten ultimately by some pretty hefty principles and values if it's going to get anywhere. Of course, Gladwell famously wrote that new movements that coalesce online don't have the robustness that, say, for example, the civil rights movements of the 1950s in America have, because they are by their nature remote and tangential. And if you're going to perhaps sacrifice your life for something you believe in, it usually requires a deep affinity, not only with the cause, but with other people, because being human, we naturally undulate in our willingness to sacrifice, in our faith and belief that change can take place. One of the things that I'm keen to inhere into our channel is a sense that what we are striving for is something that's transcendent of the cultural values that are ordinarily used to separate and divide us, that we have access individually and via that, through that, collectively, to a deep power. That if you are willing to sacrifice yourself, if you are willing to live a simple life of service, if you are willing to confront the systems within yourself, my own corruption, my own greed, my own biases, my own requirement for power, my own willingness to be hypocritical and corrupt, if I'm willing to make conquest on the level of the self, then I can be a useful servant in this world. It seems to me, Omid, that these are the very issues that you're grappling with, and anyone that's interested in changing their own life and challenging the world is ultimately going to have a relationship with ideas of that nature. How far, mate, are you willing to take something like this? Have you considered going to Iran? Have you considered, even in order to report on it more accurately? Does that idea scare you? Does it seem plausible at this point in your life that this is something that you could get more involved in? It's
not plausible, because I'll probably be arrested as soon as I get to Iran. But
is that what happens? People get arrested and put in prison, and there are 30,000 people in jail right now.
There's over, what I understand, over 30,000 people in jail. But I think because I'm a Baha'i, I would be arrested immediately. So what I can do is remind people of things that have happened. Like we're coming up to a 40th anniversary of something that happened that totally shocked me to my core, and actually artists in North America. On the 18th of June is the 40th anniversary of the hanging of 10 women in a town called Shiraz, who are 10 Baha'i women. One of them was a woman called Mona, who was 17 years old, and all the others were 20, 25. I think one of them was 35, and all because they were Baha'is, and they were told to recant their faith, and they refused, because they said, look, you're asking us to lie about wanting a better world. You're asking us to lie that we don't believe in the equality of men and women. You're asking us to lie that we believe in the one God. So they said no, and they were given many chances to recant, and they didn't. So one by one, they were all hanged in front of each other. There's a photograph online of the 10 women. They're all young. And it shocked everyone to their core. And in fact, this story, when it broke 40 years ago, It moved some artists. Actually, you can see there's a pop video was made called Mona with the Children by Jack Lenz and Doug Cameron, which got to #1 in North America. Some people might remember it. But it gave you a very good idea of this kind of Handmaid's Tale type. You know, Margaret Atwood, when she wrote Handmaid's Tale, she probably had the Islamic Republic in mind. I don't know if people know that, but these 10 women have actually inspired the women in Iran now because they stood up for something. They stood up. They actually gave their lives for an idea. That's what they did. They are, because you're asking us to lie. And that's the one thing people in Iran are saying. You can say whatever you like about the Baha'is, but they don't lie. And when they're asked to recant their faith, to lie, they won't do it, and they will put their lives on the line. So what I'm trying to do is raise awareness. There's been a call for artists, for writers, to people to commemorate this appalling act of violence towards women. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be making a little film. I'm writing a piece for the I newspaper. I'm going to try and raise awareness to back the women of Iran, because these are the stories that are pushing them now to move forward and say, we've had enough. We've had enough of this oppression. Where all the time I was told, keep quiet. When I did my first Instagram post on the 20th of September, everyone said, take it down. You'll become a target. I went, no, if I take it down, it looked like the regime is taking it down. So I kept it up, and speaking to other comedian friends and other people in the diaspora who had a platform, we thought, we've got to do something. We've got to stand up, and we've got to start a wave, because social media is like your weapon, because that's the one thing they don't like. Whenever they're about to execute someone, we all go online to don't execute this person. And what they do, they wait. And what they've done now, they've started executing people because it's been out of the online news. So they start killing people now. But if you put pressure, it's like, say their name, save a life. And I think the women of Iran have said, we've had enough. We've had enough of just trying to save people. This lot have got to go now. And what they've done is it's become political. And that's why people are hijacking it, saying it's Islamophobic. But ultimately, the people of Iran want a shot of these people now because they've had enough.
That makes sense to me.
آره برادر کلک همشونو میکنی یالا آره
یالا زود باش کار داریم میخوایم بریم زود باش بجام از اول کاره
آره برادر کلک همشونو میکنی
Told her the price that she would pay. She said, take my life, take it all away. Oh, Mona with the children, send your love to me. All around the world I see you dancing. Mona with the children, send your love to me. Every precious moment you'll be dancing. Every precious moment you'll be free. Children, send your love to me. Send your all around the world, our souls go dancing. Mona with the children,